Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're joined by Charlie Botterill. He's a Hyrox UK ambassador. He's the under 24 open men's singles world record holder for his age group. He is a British record holder for the relay. Well, I'm just going to keep rolling these off. And along with Jake Williamson, he ran a 51:51 men's pro doubles time, which up until very recently was the second fastest time ever. And we've just been chatting about how you've just been pipped to it by a couple of seconds. So I think we might see a comeback from Jake and Charlie soon. But thank you for joining us today.
Oh no, thanks for having me. Can't wait to get it started.
Oh no, it's great to have you on. Before we get into too much Hyroxy chat, we just like to take it back at the start for our listeners to ask kind of how you transitioned into the sport. And I think, am I right in saying you've done a lot of cycling? That's your background?
So my original background way back when was football, but then
Okay.
so I played at quite a high level in academies like Reading and Brentford up until the age of about 14. But I had a
Okay.
couple of pretty severe knee injuries, which kind of I know it's the thing that everyone likes to say, oh, I would have made it pro if it wasn't for an injury. But that kind of put an end to any hopes of kind of making a career out of that. So then I got into cycling, mainly like originally it was a form of rehab from the injuries, just because it's a low impact like sport that's good for you. Um, Found out I was quite good at that. Gave that a bit of a crack because I was kind of all in on football and then I needed something else to be a bit
Mm.
all in on. So cycling was the chosen thing. Made it to sort of like the lower end of the professional level there. So I spent some time out in France racing.
Was
So
this
that was
road
good.
cycling? Yeah, like was it what kind of cycling? What discipline was it? Road?
Road cycling.
Road cycling.
So, but the way I explain it is the Tour de France, but not the Tour de France.
Okay, yeah.
A bit lower than that, but that discipline. And I just fell out of love with that. Went to university, and then at university, I was like, I need something sporty to like keep me going. And then I saw Hyrox on, I think it was just like a YouTube video or Instagram in 2021, and I was like, oh, I'll give that a go. And did my
Here we are.
first one in November 2022 at London XL, and then since then, I've kind of been all in on that.
Nice. And so do you still do any cycling alongside, like you said, because you know it's good for low impact and recovery, or have you kind of parked all cycling and you don't love the bike anymore?
I do it as a form of cross training.
Yeah.
I really love it as cross training just because you can, if you, especially if you're on the indoor bike, if I'm on it for 2 hours, let's say, I can do other things while I'm on it, like answer emails or talk to people or whatever. Like, so I find it quite useful in that sense. But then in the summer, like there'll be one week where I'm like, oh, I really want to do a lot of cycling this week. And then I'll just get like 5 or 6 rides in, like in the evenings or at the weekend. And then I won't touch my bike for like another 6 months after that. So it's quite nice, just rather than it being your job, just being able to do it as and when you want, really.
Mm. And you must have been quite young when you moved then to France and you started to
Yeah, so I
what
moved
age?
to France when I was 19.
Okay.
Um,
And did you like live with like a family and then do the whole like
so my team, they paid for my apartment,
oh
but I
nice.
lived with 2 other people. So a guy called Kirill, who was Estonian, and he was on the team as well. And he's now like high-end sort of cross-country mountain biker.
Well, okay.
He
Oh,
travels the world doing that. And then another Charlie, Charlie Page from like up north near Burnley and Clitheroe. And he's actually like made it as a professional now. So for instance, I was watching him on the TV last week because he was doing the tour of Croatia. And it
Oh,
was
it's
quite
crazy.
funny, like seeing him on the big screen doing it.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I used to live with that guy.
yeah.
But that was during like the whole lockdown thing. And they'd both been out there for a year longer than me. So they'd got their French residencies. and the whole lockdown Brexit thing meant that they could go to and from France freely. But because I hadn't got my residency, if I left France, they wouldn't let me back in. So
Okay,
there was
yeah.
quite a few like weeks slash months where I was just in France on my own in lockdown, and it was a bit like, nah, I don't really want to be here anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that's what France was like.
Wow,
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I think like for anyone that knows how like professional cyclists train, I mean, to have that background, I mean, like from the football moving into that, and then to have the background of like what were some of the like hardest training sessions? I'm guessing you were out for like hours on end, or you've been doing like FTPs and being pushed
Yeah, there
like
was there was like difficult sessions in the form of like pain, but then some were just like mentally really like just awful. There was one in January in 2021 when it's kind of like end of off season where you're really starting to ramp training back up. And I didn't have like an indoor trainer in France until about February. And there was one session I had which was 7 hours. And I woke up ready for it. And I looked out the window and it was freezing cold, biblical rain and wind. And I was like, I've got to spend like the equivalent of a work day just out riding my bike in that. And the the frustrating thing about being fast as a cyclist is that the wind hits you harder and the rain hits you harder and you get colder. So if it's warm, it's brilliant because you cool down better. But if it's freezing cold, you're just like, oh, so that was probably the hardest mental one. And
that's
then
brutal.
in terms of actual like just pain, it's probably like an FTP test. Like I did my last ever FTP test I did. I was sat at the side of the road for about 10 minutes after that, just trying just not to pass out.
Oh my God. And can I
But
ask what it was?
I did
What your average?
402 watts.
Fucking hell.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's mega, isn't it?
It was brutal, but I massively
402.
positive split it, and like the whole aim was like I want to hit 400 watts.
That is incredible. I mean, like to some people it won't mean anything, but like for like an average, if we like train people for going to do a bike race and we try and give them an aim, like most people, to get over 150 to around 200, like if they've never done an FTP before, like that's
Mm.
like if they can get to 200, you're like, oh, well done, and you've just like doubled that. Like that's
Yeah, it was, but like I miss being that fit, like because obviously I'm a different type of fit in Hyrox, but I'm not that like aerobically just like that strong anymore. But then on the flip side, I don't miss like the pain of having to do one of them every 6 weeks kind of thing. So yeah, it swings and roundabouts really.
Yeah, totally. But then it must have been quite nice as well coming into a Hyrox. Like, I think we talk about this quite a bit, how you don't need a huge amount, like, you know, especially for the running side, you have a pair of trainers, you can go out as much as like, obviously everyone likes to have the nice trainers and then they like to get their home gym kitted out and all that sort of stuff. With like cycling, you know, you need all the kit, you need the bike, there's a lot of maintenance and all of that, whereas for Hyrox it's very accessible and it's quite easy to train for in a way.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think obviously you need to be quite gifted genetically and whatnot. But I think that you could theoretically, without any equipment, you could get like for the men, sub 60 if you just train the running and then sort of use body weight exercises. Um, and I think that's the beauty of it. Like you don't like you can if you go on holiday with the family for 2 weeks, you could still maintain your fitness just through different like methodologies, even if there's not really a gym there. Like you can run, burpee, like you can do air squats with lifting your arms in the air. That's kind of a wall ball kind of thing.
You can
And I think-
lunge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the beauty of it. There's no, because it's so new, I know a lot of people say this, there's no like fixed training method. It's not like
Mm.
you have to do this to be better. Yes, you have to run to get better, but you can do whatever mix of sessions you want that work for you, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
And then what about, oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was gonna say, what about the knee? How are the knees? Because running's obviously a huge part of Hyrox, and it does kind of take a toll with the mileage and the impact. Like if you've got previous injuries, are they okay with the running?
Running, yeah, as long as it's not cold. I think if it's cold, my knee is like, so training in winter is always a bit rough. Like I
You
have to
sound like Faye. This is what she says to me. We need to go to a hot country because it's not as sore and everything doesn't take as long to warm up.
I'm old now.
I always wear like this knee support, and everyone's like, "Oh, have you got an injury?" And I'm like, "No, I had an injury, but it's just to keep it warm, so it hurts a bit less."
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual like Hyrox, it's any impact sports where like contact sports. So sort of this plane of motion, like forward and backwards, is fine. But any like impact laterally or twisting motions, kind of, because the main issues with my meniscus. So if I catch that wrong or twist awkwardly, it'll tear again. So it's kind of just making sure that I don't play football, I don't play rugby. But then cycling was fine because it's that range of motion, and everything in Hyrox is forward and backwards.
Yeah.
Like unless you do an exercise quite funkily, there's no there's no like real way of going side to side.
Yeah, totally. There's no lateral movement unless you're failing on the burpees or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, that makes sense. And then so just bringing it into like Hyrox from the cycling as well. How do you think your background, because you've just talked, I mean, I'm jumping right to like one of the end questions that we usually try and touch on, but how do you think the mental game from those cycling sessions have helped you in Hyrox? Because I think mentally that's one of the biggest things. People know that Hyrox is just a suffer fest. You just go in and you have to suffer. Obviously you have the ability to suffer. Like, do you think that's been a massive game changer for you coming into the Hyrox?
Yeah, like 100%. Like I've always had a saying, it's just like you kind of put yourself in a box and you stay in it. As in like when you start the race, you put yourself in the box and you just like, it's just one of those things where you just suffer through it. And there was one like reel I put out on Instagram that got a lot of attention, like, but in a good way. So like, for instance, like Meg Jacobi like commented and mentioned me in it. And it was that a lot of people in the Elite 15 or a lot of people outside of the Elite 15, their fitnesses are different. So like there are some people who aren't in the Elite 15 that are fit enough to like be firmly in it. It's just mentally they're not quite there yet. And I think the mentality of it is not as important as the physical aspect, but it plays an incredible role in just how much you're able to suffer, but then also how well you're able to measure your effort. Because a lot of people, they'll go out too easy and then really pick it up towards the end, or they'll go out too hard and then fade away. But a lot of people mentally know that it hurts from the start, but they can maintain it. And I think that's where like the best in the world are the best in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do think like that end like suffer range, it's like knowing where it kind of starts so that you can bring it to at the beginning and then not like blow up. But yeah, you don't want to be too reserved thinking, oh, I don't want to blow up, so I'm going to take it easy and then I'll just push towards the end. But it's quite a like daunting thing to go into a race thinking like this entire like hour or just under is just going to be horrific. Although for you, maybe you're like, it's only an hour, it's not 7 hours.
Well, ironically, when I ran that time in London Olympia, I did the pro race the evening before, and
God.
I finished that at whatever it was, 8:30, but I was quite disappointed because I didn't get the time I wanted, and I had a few cramps and whatnot. But I was like, I've I've got more in the tank there, and I didn't know if it was mentally or physically. So I remember being on the way home and just like putting on my Instagram, has anyone got a ticket for tomorrow for the Open? Because I was like, there's more there. But then I went into that Open race having done the pro race the day before, like with no expectations, because I got to the
Yeah.
start line and I was so tired. Sorry, it's just got really sunny. Is that a nightmare?
No, it's all good.
Um, and I got to the pro race, the Open race, and I got to the start line, and I was still so fatigued from the night before, but I had no like pressure. So there's like a video of me on the ski just messing about, smiling, because I put no pressure on myself, and then
Mm.
I get to the farmer's carry, and my mate Rich, he was there watching. He shouts at me like, "You're ahead of the world record pace for your age group," and I was like, "Oh." Like and it felt so much easier because there was no pressure. So I think
Yeah.
once you put pressure on yourself, everything feels harder. And see, I've kind of lost my train of thought there. I didn't really know what the first question was. But yeah,
No,
like,
no, but that it is true. I do think like we were talking about mentality, and that is probably some of it, you know, and maybe also why like the more experienced athletes in the Elite 15 who've raced more, like probably find it easier. Whereas like when there's a new athlete coming into the Elite 15, maybe they put more pressure on themselves because they're then in this situation. Although I guess you could flip that the other way and think,
yeah,
well, if you're an experienced Elite 15 athlete, you should be climbing the leaderboard. And if you're just coming
yeah,
in to do it like your first time, then there's no pressure because you've got nothing to compare it to. So it's all like mind games, I guess.
Yeah, it's
oh
all
yeah,
relative, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. And then, so what's I'm intrigued. What's worse, a Hyrox like full Hyrox effort or an FTP?
Oh.
Probably it's such a difficult one because they're two different types of pain.
I feel like with an FTP, it's a functional threshold, like power test. So like you're on a bike and you're just basically trying to push out as many watts
Yeah.
as you can and sustain it for anyone that doesn't know what it is. But like I feel like that because you're on one thing, you're just in one place. So maybe because like in a Hyrox, you can chunk it down.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
And
potentially you can.
I think mentally probably the FTP test, because like when you do it, you're just it's just you
And
on
you're
a
in a hole
bike,
and you're
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
and you just know that it's only 20 minutes,
It's a painful
but
20 minutes.
like you just have to kind of just go as deep as you can for those 20 minutes. Whereas a high rocks, it's probably more painful physically just because it's longer,
Mm.
and there's like your whole body hurts, but you've got people shouting at you. You're always changing. Like you run, you ski, you run, you sled push, you run, you sled pull. Like
Yeah.
there's always something within, like for most people, like you're never in one thing for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I do think that's what's so clever about the race, is because like you can like try and just finish that discipline that you're on that moment. If you can just get to the end of that, you can kind of then move on to the next one, and it kind of gives you that, like if you're talking mentally, it's a good way to move through a race, isn't it?
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so coming from a cyclist then, and like cyclists are well known for not having much upper body strength and like obviously a lot of leg power, but obviously trying to be as light as possible for your power to weight ratio. How did you change your training to come into Hyrox? Did you start to put on like more mass, or what was
Yeah,
the
so well, from September 2021, that's when I kind of switched training methodologies. Um, I went from about, I think it was 64 kilos.
Wow,
And then a year later,
That's
I
low.
was 100.
You had a
'cause
good year.
I kind of, I'm very all in on things. And I was like, if I want to do well at this, I've kind of got to not get fat, but obviously the fatter you are, the easier it is to build muscle,
Yeah.
like just because you've got more fuel there. So I did get quite chunky, to be fair, in 2022. But
Especially after being so lean for so long as a cyclist,
Yeah.
it must have felt really odd.
And it was more like my appetite as well, because when I was a cyclist, I had such a massive appetite, but that's because I needed to eat 5,000-6,000 calories a day. But then in Hyrox, you don't need to eat that many calories because yes, you keep the intensity, but the volume's a lot lower. So I was just like, I'll get big and I'll just try and put on as much muscle as I can in a year. And it worked, to be fair. And then did my first Hyrox in the end of 2022. Still like had a bit of that big Charlie size about me. And now it's kind of
bit of excess.
But to be fair, I used to have like little pepper, the pepper army guy.
Yeah.
I have little pepper army arms. So and they're not massive now, but they're a bit better than they used to be.
But you need some mass behind you to move. Like the men's pro weights aren't messing around. So if you're too light, like you need like even just some mass to move the sleds, don't you? And to pull that sled and
I think that's the biggest area of improvement for me. Like the actual strength, because I'm still 2 and a bit years into my like strength journey.
Yeah.
And I've still got a long way to go for a lot of things. Like I know that, for instance, a lot of the guys in the Elite 15, they'll like bench press like 100 kilos for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 reps. And I've never benched 100 kilos. So I still need to kind of like get that upper body strength in me. But it's something that's just I need to work on. And I think that's a good thing. You've always got something to improve on.
Yeah, and people have different strengths in the race. Like the race can be run in so many different ways. And like some people, the runnings, they're like better area, and some it's the strength. And like
you look at Paleo, who's come from an Ironman, like a triathlete and an Ironman background, and he's just like rapid on the runs, or like in the females, that Amy Bevilacqua, and she's not as big as the other girls.
Brilliant.
She's unreal. Like
5 kids.
I know.
Like 51 years old.
What is our what's your excuse? I know.
Like I think it was like a 101 into like the 6th fastest time ever.
I know. Unreal.
Absolutely unreal. I know.
And like I ran like a 59-minute in London XL.
Yeah.
And that was like after loads of training and whatnot. And I was a student and I had a full-time job as a student, but I didn't have any like responsibilities as a kid or whatnot.
Didn't have 5 kids to
raise. And I had I was 22 years old, so I'm like I've got the sprightly youngness.
Yeah.
But it's just insane how she's done it. And
I know, it's so inspiring.
It's absolutely brilliant. Like I'd love for her to make the world champs again in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of, if she makes it, it just sums up the sport is really for like anyone.
100%. And it's like, it's that whole thing of, it's not like how old you are. It's like how like well you train and how you keep your body and what you do and the consistency and the commitment. And I guess like prioritizing things as well, isn't it? It's like a bit like what you've said, if you're going to do something, you're going all in, like you've made it your priority and you've decided that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure and because you've got such a background with professional like sport, you probably, the consistency doesn't even, it's a habit to you, so you don't even think about it. But for some people getting into it, if they want to see the gains, it's just like you said, going all in, prioritizing and having that consistency to see the results, I guess.
Oh yeah,
for sure. So what about for our listeners, do you have any like top tips? We like to try and give, it can be to do with racing or training or anything Hyrox related. Do you have anything that's helped you in your Hyrox journey?
My biggest training thing is don't just always do Hyrox work. Like I see a lot of people who they'll do like 4 or 5 Hyrox style sessions a week, and I'm like, that's
A
like
lot.
quite. In like the 3 weeks before a race, like maybe upping the amount of, or 4 weeks before a race, maybe doing like 3 Hyrox sessions a week at maximum, just to get that feeling. But in like the off season and stuff like that, like I was seeing people in July doing loads of these like compromised running workouts, and I was like, that's like, it's great, but you need to really try and hone in your strength and your running. And so that's probably my biggest training tip. Like I'll only do like still the maximum, the most like compromised sessions I've done in a week in the build up to Birmingham is 2.
Yeah.
And like I'll be doing 3 this week, but that'll be the most it is. So that's probably my biggest training thing. And then in racing, there's so many different ones I could pick, but I think the biggest one for me is be respectful of like the race. So if you're feeling really, really good, like at like the sled push or the sled pull or whatever, don't let like your head like think, oh yeah, I'm feeling really good here, and then you sort of like start to disrespect the race, and then you get to the lunges and you're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Because like I've done it before. Like in my first ever Hyrox, I got to like the sled pull, and I was like, oh, I'm doing good here. This is like really like I feel good. And then there's just a video of me on the burpees, just hands on knees, just like literally just bent over in the middle of the floor, just like, oh my word. So I think that's probably biggest thing for me is like respect the race, and just if you feel good, like understand that emotion and just carry on. If you feel bad, understand that emotion and just carry on.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like just stick to whatever plan you've got, unless you feel really bad and like start cramping and have to walk, but just stick with it up until sort of halfway, 60% of the way into the race, and then start to think about, oh, I feel good, I'll kind of push on a bit. But yeah, that's probably my biggest thing, respect the race.
Yeah, it can catch up with you, can't it? You totally think like, oh, this is going really well, and then all of a sudden it just goes into a downward spiral.
Yeah.
But then
We've
also,
all been there.
oh yeah, 100%. But then I'd say my biggest thing that I found, it's not even really as like in training or racing, but as a spectator, like you massively appreciate it if like a random person who you don't know cheers you on. So
Yeah.
if you're watching the race and you see like maybe someone struggling, or even someone doing like really well, or just someone doing the average Hyrox, like if you like cheer them on and like say, oh, you're doing great, or if they're like really struggling on the farms carry, right, pick it up in 3, 2,
Yeah.
1, go. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me that's making the sport so popular, is if everyone cheers each other on, everyone gets better and everyone has more fun. Like if you do your first Hyrox and you do like a relatively slow time, but the whole way around people are supporting you and cheering you on, you're going to do another one just because you loved it, even if you're not like the fastest people in the wave, or you're not like the top 50% or whatever, you still enjoy the event. So I think that's probably my biggest thing just for the sport in general, is just support each other, even if you don't know the person.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think, to be honest, I think Hyrox has already, like, in a weird way, created that. It seems to be like every time you go somewhere, it does seem to be a really, like, it's a very, very friendly atmosphere. There's no, I don't know, like sometimes you go to, for example, like a running road race, and it can be quite like,
Intimidating.
yeah, it is quite intimidating. Or like some bike race. I used to do some like bike race, and I always found like road bikes road bike stuff was a bit more intimidating than mountain biking. I did a lot of mountain biking. Everyone's chatting, cheering each other on. Like, it's a bit like trail running and road running. Everyone in trail running, like, if someone slips and falls, you'll check they're okay. I feel like in road running, they'll just probably run on and run on.
Like, jump over you.
Yeah, jump over you, maybe. Like, they won't check you're okay. And I feel like maybe Hyrox has taken on a bit more of that, like, yeah, trail running, mountain bike, like community type aspect where people will check everyone's okay and they want everyone to do well and they almost want everyone to enjoy the sport because you enjoy it. It's like, I don't know, we're here now, like you're an ambassador for Hyrox. We've started a podcast because you want more people to enjoy the sport because we enjoy it and you want to grow together rather than, I don't know, like doing it because you want to do it and you want to get your, 3 seconds faster or something. I know, it's
I think there's the competitive side of it, but I think everyone actually, as much as everyone loves to race, they also just love to go and see everyone and catch up with everyone and support everyone. And like, I feel like the Hyrox events have kind of, like, especially in the UK, turned into just a way for everyone to catch up and say hi and like, like meet each other, like, and you see everyone, even if you're not racing or you didn't manage to get a ticket or you're injured or whatever, people are still like trying to go and they've got the spectator tickets so that you can support and just see your friends. And like, it has created that really nice like community feel, which I think is ace, like really. So did you say Birmingham? That's your next race on the cards?
Yeah, so first race of the season is going to be Birmingham in, 2.5 weeks time now.
Yeah, it's not long now, is it?
Come around quite quickly.
And is that single?
Yeah, so it'll be men's pro on the Saturday night. Which, is that
your only race of the weekend, or are you?
It's my only race of the Birmingham weekend
at the moment.
He's driving home and then he asks if someone's got a spare ticket.
The weekend after in Poznan, I was like, so I said to myself, I'll do a really good training block. I'll do the men's pro in Birmingham, recover in the week, men's pro in Poznan, and then just see what happens the rest of the year. But in Poznan, I'm doing the men's pro on the Saturday night. I'm doing a relay with my mates on the Sunday evening because we were like, oh, we're all out there. We may as well just do it again.
Yeah, give it a go.
And then a guy, Ross Walker from Scotland, you might have heard of him. I think he's about my age as well. But he's a really quick runner. And he was like, oh, do you fancy the doubles on Sunday morning? And I was like, yeah, we'll do it.
So you've got three
in
race
24 hours in Poznan now.
That is going to be a sad flight home. You're going to be hurting so much sitting on that plane.
I don't drink much, but I'm very much looking forward to like the £2 pints on the Sunday evening. It's like getting home on the Monday and just being like,
finally done,
crash,
tapping out. But yeah, so that's the next month for me, really.
Oh, nice. And are you gonna be chasing your partner around the track then? Is that is he slightly faster runner, or how? I always find it interesting with doubles, like people's plans and how they work.
I think in terms of running, we're very similar.
Okay, that's good.
And he's doing the men's open on the day before as well. So we would have both had a Hyrox in our leg. But he's like, I think he's got like a low 16, high 15, 5K. Like he's really quick.
That's rapid.
So, and because it's open weights, like I think if you're doing the open doubles, it's all about how quick you can run, really.
It is, yeah.
It's a different race, isn't it?
Like both the men and the women, because the weights are lighter than the pro races. It's all like you can kind of just go through them just quickly.
Yeah.
But then it's all about how quick you can run. So we're hoping for like a somewhat quick time, but like again, we're not putting any pressure on it because we've never raced with each other before, and we've both done a Hyrox the day before.
Exactly. At least you're on even playing fields. At least neither of you will have fresh legs.
Yeah, exactly. But it'll be good fun that weekend. And then, but I'm really looking forward to Birmingham because I'm on the start tunnel on the Sunday, which I think is going to be brilliant because thankfully I know a lot of people in the sport, so I'm on the start tunnel all of Sunday afternoon, so I'll just be able to catch up with people right before their race. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Oh, that'll be good. That'll be nervous energy, but like people will be buzzing, won't they?
Yeah, and like it'll be good like chatting to people who are doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Kind of thankfully because I've got a lot under my belt, I can just be like, don't go off too hard and make sure you smile.
Yeah. Don't sprint.
But there's always one person that drops like a 3 minute first K, and then you're like, no.
That's gonna hurt. Yeah, it's gonna bite you later, for sure. So that's your racing so far that you've got booked in and planned. Is there any aims for the season, or is it just to keep trying to get quicker and faster, maybe qualify for Worlds?
The main aim for me, like in sort of July time, was to get in and around the Elite 15 this year. But I don't think, like in all honesty, I don't think I'm quite at that level yet. Like probably like aerobically I am, but I'm just not strong enough, and strength just takes forever. It feels
it's
like
a process, isn't it?
Yes.
So I wanted to do that, but then main aim for me is maybe look at the Elite 15 doubles, because obviously that's not as well. Obviously you do half the work on the actual stations, so maybe give that a go. And then London Olympia, not Olympia, XL at the end of November, start of December. I've got one big goal in the Open for that, which is like a time that I'm keeping very close to my chest.
Yeah.
I've kind of done a bit of maths and worked out that if I can peak for that, I can do a really quick Open time.
Nice.
Which would be a nice comparison because my first race was at the XL. So then whenever I race there, I always do an Open, and it'll probably be my only Open of the season. But it's just like, I always like doing the Open there just so you can compare it year on year. And then
it's cool to see the progress, definitely.
And then I'll probably go to Manchester at like the middle of November, but doubt I'll race it. I'll probably just go to help out and just support people where I can. And it's always a great atmosphere there. So that's the main aims for the season. That singles time, maybe get near the Elite 15, and then, as cliche as it is, just have fun. Like, are you allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think I did when you said what your FTP was.
I always say, like, if you're not having fun, then what's the fucking point? Like, and at the end of the day, like, if you get on a start line and you're not excited, then you've not really done it right. Like, you should be like excited to get going. And I think I find a lot of fun in just supporting people and watching it. So I think that's probably what I'll do in Manchester. Just go up and watch.
It's nice as well, I think, sometimes to go and watch. Like, we were hoping if we were free for Manchester to maybe just go up and like help or watch, or because like sometimes it's nice to just be in the environment and actually not be racing. So thinking, oh, I don't want to stay for too long because I need to go back and like not, get like completely burnt out by being around everyone like all day because I need to race later or race tomorrow. If you don't need to go and race, you can kind of switch off and just go and really enjoy cheering on people and getting involved, can't you?
Yeah, that's why I like getting the races out the way early.
And then you can go and if you're the last race, or if you've got a relay, it's always going to be at the end, isn't it? But
thing is, the relay, I'm always like, for instance, in Olympia when we did it there, I'd done the pro on the Saturday, the Open on the Sunday, and then we get to the relay on the Monday, and I'm like, I was just like, I'm not going to feel any better or worse if I stay in bed all day. So I'm just going to go and support everyone and then hope for the best when I start. So I think like the wait for that was probably the longest, just because like you're just standing around supporting everyone, but then realizing that you've got to do two like 7 or 8 minute efforts where there's no reason to pace it, and it's kind of, that was just playing on my mind the whole day. But I think the sport's the best bit.
Totally. And you oh, sorry, go on.
No. Go for
I
it.
was just going to say, you talked about maybe doing like the pro doubles. Do you know who you do it with? Like, would you go back with Jake or
Yeah, I'd hope to go back with Jake just because I think we fit
quite a
like
good?
our
Yeah.
strengths and weaknesses complement because we're both really quick runners. And then I'm not very good at burpees, but he's quite good at burpees. Like burpees, like it's become a bit of a meme with me. Like I'm just so bad at them. I've been practicing them so much in off season, but I still just like can't get it. I think it's because I'm quite disproportionate. Like I've got really short legs, so it's really good for the lunges and like the wall ball speed.
Yeah,
I've got really short legs and a really long body, so
that's a
just
bit like
getting
me,
up from the
honestly.
burpees is always just a bit awkward for me. And it's always just funny seeing it back on like video when people film it. But I think like we complement each other quite well. So I think hopefully we'll get one in at some point because I think there's 5 majors for the doubles.
Yeah, I think so. There's like
Oh,
5
yeah.
opportunities. isn't
5
there?
majors where the top 3 qualify each time. And I
Yeah,
know
and
that
there's
one of
quite a
them,
few on the back end, isn't there? If
yeah, I
they,
know that one of them's London Olympia.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a spectacle to watch, that'll be brilliant because you can fit so many people there. But yeah, like hopefully we get one in.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it's exciting. I'm excited. And I think I'm going to go back and now watch that video of you burping because I'm intrigued.
There's one I put out as kind of a bit of satire. Just like, is this legal? And like the burpee was completely illegal, but it was kind of just a bit of a jokey one. And like a lot of the comments like were like funny, like just, oh yeah, like yeah, you've like I can see the joke here. But then
Yeah.
some people were like
Took it
absolutely
really seriously.
and then so I just had to like pin a comment at the top. I think a few people are missing the sarcasm of this post.
Yeah, you probably started the like Hyrox like keyboard warriors off there with like
But it was
absolutely
brilliant.
not.
That was like a week or two before they did the new rule book.
I was going to say, why did the rule change? Because of Charlie's burpees?
Because at the time there was like an argument for the burpees being legal because they look completely illegal, but they didn't break any rules in the rule book. They just looked completely
Fair.
wrong. But then when they released the rule book, it made them like completely illegal. And then I just went back to the post and saw a load of new comments. Haha, told you, kind of thing. And like,
Oh,
it
people are
still makes
so
me chuckle,
funny,
that
aren't they?
video.
Oh, it's too good. It's too
So
good.
yeah, if Hyrox got rid of burpees, maybe there's an argument for me being world champion. But
Yeah.
But until then, you're just gonna have to keep working on it.
until then, I'm just
Or go
I'm
doubles
not
and
quite there yet.
get Jake to do them.
Oh, love it. Right. Is there anything else you want to add, Faye, or should we go on to the cheeky insight questions?
Yeah, cool. Yeah. No,
Yeah, go for it. Are you ready, Charlie?
Yeah, ready.
Born ready. Okay, first one is, what trainers do you wear to race Hyrox?
Last season it was the Adidas Boston 11s.
Oh, that's a new answer.
Nobody else. I've never seen a single person wear them.
No.
Like literally, I've actively gone to events and tried to find someone else who wears Adidas Boston 11s, and I've never seen anyone wear them.
Why was that your choice? Did you do a lot of running in them? Is it because like Adidas Boston's a popular running shoe? But
well, so when I lived in Wembley Park as a student, there was the Wembley Park outlet, and there's some absolutely like brilliant like trainer deals in there. I've got those Boston 11s for like 35 quid. When like the RRP was like 140 or 150 pounds. And I tried them and I was like, oh, these might actually be quite good for Hyrox. And then I wore them at that Copenhagen doubles that me and Jake did. And I did a 51, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I like these trainers.
These are good.
Yeah,
I just wore them for the rest of the season. And then I'll probably switch my trainers out this year because I tried at Forders yesterday. I tried the new, probably going to butcher the name, the Puma DV8 Nitro Elite 3s.
Okay.
Bit of a mouthful, but I really enjoyed them. So I'll probably give them a go in Birmingham, and then if I like them, I'll stick with them. But like the shoes have never really been. I think a lot of people really overestimate the shoes, and it's like it's 1 or 2% with the shoes, really. Like a lot of people put so much worry into the shoes they wear, but then they'll only get like 2 hours sleep the night before a race because they're out all night, and then blame the shoes for them having a poor race. So I think they're the shoes I wear, but I'm not really too fussed on shoes.
Yeah, totally agree.
But I mean, to be honest, like go back to the cycling analogy, it like reminds me of, you get a lot of middle-aged men and they're really overweight, but they go and buy the lightest bike that's like carbon ninja road bike that's like
Yeah.
10 grand because it's really
the
light and
helmet.
fast. Yeah, and the go faster helmet, like, but then they're really overweight with this
Yeah.
massive beer belly, and I'm like, just lose a bit of weight. You don't have to spend 10 grand on your bike. Like,
Yeah,
that's what that analogy reminds me of.
like I know a few people who have like been like that before, and I
Yeah.
think it's like, yeah, it's
Why?
yeah,
It's
that's why it's probably the best way. I was looking for a word, but why is probably
Why? Moving on.
Okay, next up. Which venue is your favorite Hyrox venue?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably London Olympia for like the spectator aspect.
Yeah.
This is just like of the venues I've done, because I'm sure that Tempelhof in Berlin was probably amazing.
Yeah.
I know, that is definitely on our list, isn't it?
But
We're
then-
gutted we didn't go there.
Glasgow was really good for the atmosphere, and I
Big up
think
the Scots.
I think Glasgow for the last major this year, I think that'll be the best like atmosphere there's ever been for a Hyrox. I think it would be even better than like the World Champs, just because it'll just be full of people. It's the last major, so it's other than the last chance qualifier, like everyone
Yeah.
watching that elite race will just be like all in on it. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably my favorite venue for atmosphere. But then Olympia probably for actually like being a spectator and watching.
Yeah.
Olympia's just so good with the balcony, isn't it? Like round the top, so
Yeah.
you can actually see down. It's quite easy to get a really good view of everything going on.
Gives you a good perspective of how many people are actually there, I think. Like we went up, just before we raced, didn't we? And I was like looking down and you're like, God, the volume of people is just unbelievable. Like it's so cool.
Yeah, and I loved the layout there this year. I know that there was a lot
Yeah.
of people, like, especially before it being like, oh, it's such a shit course, like, oh, it's going to be so slow and it's going to be awful. But actually, like, I think it was brilliant the way they set it up.
Yeah, I didn't mind the run course.
Yeah,
thought
I
it was
quite
alright.
liked it. Yeah.
I just like, I'm a big F1 fan, so I just treated it like
Yeah.
an F1 track.
Like chicanes, yeah.
So I'm making just noises like as I go around, like,
We have Joanna that sings, and we've got you making like F1 noises as you go around the running track. I'm just like trying to breathe. I think it's funny though, because like the one thing I remember from Olympia and watching from the top is, you know, when like, and you'll see it, I guess, when you're in did you say Manchester, when you're like setting people off at the start, like
Manchester.
like from the top you'd look down and everyone would be doing their run, and you can tell people are getting a bit tired because they're on like, you know, the third, fourth run of the day, and then suddenly they set off a new like wave, and like everyone just comes like flying out, and you're like, oh god, here we go. And it's just like
they're the fresh people.
Yeah, they're like just like
my wave or the wave after in the men's pro, because like that's one thing I don't like about the men's pro. Like
it's just like
oh, like shoulders out. There was
testosterone.
There was this one poor girl, like, and she was running, like she was kind of in a world of her own, bless her. And she was running, she ran right in front of the start pen.
Oh, just as they started.
And there's just a video of her getting like absolutely like bodied and landing on the floor and just
no.
And then I was like, I wanted to go and help her, but I was just like, nah, that's not great. So I think
there needs to be something like a funnel in or something to get rid of the like.
Yeah,
it's like when a double starts as well, isn't it? Because there's like twice the amount of people, and then people are running around. It needs to be this, I don't know, some kind of light or something, so people know they're about to set off. So you get out of your little zone, and you know that 40 guys are about to come flying.
Yeah, so that's why I'm always like, whenever I see a new wave go off, I hope there was no one in the front of that, especially
That
with
would, yeah.
the men, because like I don't want to be like, and as a man, I don't want to be like, oh, anti-men, but we're not as courteous or as polite, which
I
is a
feel
bit,
like
Yeah.
it's just testosterone, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are hyped up anyway. You're in a race situation. You're all like ready to go, and everyone just wants to do the best out in front.
Yeah.
I mean, even the female waves are like that. Like when everyone gets
Yeah.
going, I think like anyone will get caught. It's just guys tend to be just bigger and broader, and
yeah,
yeah.
It's
But
hard,
yeah, watching
isn't
it set off. I think
I
that's one
know.
of the things that Hyrox will just work on though. Like they're still getting better at everything, and I think that's just like another part of the puzzle, isn't it? To work out how to weave the two different like
Yeah, and what
categories in
timing
together.
works best for setting off who in what order and stuff. Like
Mm.
it is a minefield, isn't it? Definitely. Okay, next one. Which is your favorite Hyrox station?
Not the burpees.
yeah, not the burpees. Probably, I'm not going to count running because I think
No, that doesn't count.
running's just like that's not a station. It is kind of just half of Hyrox. Going back to sort of like my proportions, it's probably like the rower or the skier, just because I've got a long body. It's quite. I find it a lot easier to do like quite a high pace on those.
Yeah.
So
What are your relay? What do you usually do in the relay?
so in Olympia, I did a 139 average on the ski, and then on the row it was like 138.
So you did both ergs in the relay?
Yeah. Like every relay I've done, I've just been on both ergs.
Oh, really? Oh.
But then in the XL, I've never done a relay fresh. Like I've always done a Hyrox either 20 minutes before it or the day before.
Or a couple the day before.
But
roll.
in the XL, I'm doing the men's open on the Friday, but then I'm doing the relay on the Sunday night, and I'm gonna kind of just try and maybe get as close as possible to like the 130s, like 132, hopefully. Because I've been practicing it a lot in training, but I think that's probably like my favorite station, just because it's all about how aerobically strong you are, and I've got good proportions for it.
Yeah, and then you find the run into the ski into the run. Okay, like when you
After the relay.
Sorry, I mean it. Like I know you just said it about the relay, but like that you're strong at the ergs. But when you're doing a solo, say like the run into the erg into the run, do you find that like a lot of people struggle on that because it's so aerobic, isn't it? But
yeah, I'm quite like I enjoy them.
Yeah.
Because what I'll do the first 900 meters, like for instance, in Olympia, I did 900 meters on the ski at like 145, 146.
Yeah.
Then the last 100 meters, I dropped it down to like just over 2 minutes.
Just to get.
And it just kind of gets everything, like it's not a massive drop, but it just kind of gets everything a bit lower before you go into that next run. So I think that's probably my biggest tip on the ergs is kind of go hard the first 90%, 92%, and then really ease off that last 100 meters. And realistically, you're only losing like 5-6 seconds maximum, but you're gaining that sort of your breath back
you gain it on the run. Yeah, totally. Instead of like not being able to.
Probably, yeah. So I think the row is probably my favorite station, just in that aspect. Because you can sit down as well.
Yeah. Okay, next one. You've already done doubles, but if you could do doubles Hyrox with anyone in the world, it doesn't have to be like a Hyrox athlete, it could be anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oof.
Or it can't be a Hyrox athlete if you're super competitive and would want to do a doubles with someone. I don't.
I remember in that little PDF you sent me, I remember seeing this. Yeah. And I sat there for like a solid like 15 minutes. Who would I actually like?
People take it really seriously. I'm
waiting for you to say Lewis Hamilton. No.
Yeah, like Sergio Perez wouldn't be bad.
Is he an F1 driver? I don't even know.
Well, I've got on my Built for Athletes bag, I've got a little Sergio. Anyone that's watching can see it's a little.
Oh yeah, fair.
sticker.
Sergio Perez bad.
I'd say
This question always stumps everyone.
yeah.
I
Sorry,
love
I'm
it.
kind of like dragging this out a little
No,
bit.
no, people do take it very seriously. It's like you're going to be judged on your answer.
I'm just trying to think of like the athlete I look up to most.
Yeah, fair.
To be fair, it's more of like a comedic thing. Do you know Eric Dyer, the footballer?
No, but
No, but I'm sure people will.
His girlfriend does Hyrox, so I
oh
think
really?
he'd be quite keen on doing it. But he's my favourite footballer.
That's a
Okay.
good one.
And he's not really a like standout footballer. He's just kind of your average Premier League sort of Bundesliga is where he is now. He's kind of just an average footballer, but he's like my favourite one.
There you go.
So, and I know that he'd probably be keen to do one just because his girlfriend, I think wife now actually, like I think they got married. She does Hyrox, and he was at Olympia a couple of years ago. So probably him.
Oh,
Fair.
I like it. I like it. Not an answer we've had before, so good.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever get anyone say Eric Dyer as well.
Okay, next one. Do you fuel during the Hyrox race? And if so, what do you use and when do you take it?
Yes, and we were talking about this yesterday with a few of us. I fuel more than anyone, like in a Hyrox, and I think that's more from my background, just because as a cyclist you have to just take on so many like carbs per hour. So in a race, like last year I took 2 gels. So I take one as I'm going from like one side of the sled pool to the other. I'll take a gel during that, and then I'll take one just as I get off the rower. And I'll probably do the same thing this year, but I might even try and do it in like a little bottle. So I've got this small like 200 ml bottle, but it fits in the pocket of my shorts.
Yeah,
So I
like
might
a
just
soft
have,
one.
yeah, like a little soft. It's like a semi-soft one, so
Yeah,
it still holds its shape, but just have like a carb mix in that, because then you also get like actual like fluid.
that's such a good idea.
No, I was thinking about trying like a carb mix thing because I always feel I just need it like way more than Faye does. Like you can totally see if I don't, I take a right dive. Like, but I was thinking it would be quite nice instead of always having to have a gel, like being able to take on a bit of more of a liquid form would be nice.
And what do you use? Is it like Morton or something, or like?
So last year I used the Precision Fuel and Hydration ones.
Okay,
Just because they used to sponsor me, and
okay.
I used to get on really well with them. But now My Protein sponsor me, and they've got this new like Hyrox range, and I've tried them a lot in training, and I get on really well with them. So that'll be what I use this year, and I think each gel is 30 grams of carbs.
Yeah,
So
that's decent, isn't it?
Yeah,
probably 2 of them during is adequate for me. Like realistically, if you're doing a Hyrox quite quickly, you don't really need to take on carbs. But then it's all personal preference. Like I see a massive difference if I don't, but then a lot of people like won't see any difference at all. So I think fueling's always a bit of a weird one because some people take it during, some people don't. But then I always remember like I did a race, second race I ever did was Glasgow in early 2022. And there was one guy on the start line. I just remember him chatting to someone else, and I overheard him say, "Oh, I've not had any like breakfast or anything." And the guy was like, "Why?" And he was like, "Oh, I wasn't really hungry." And I turned around and I was like, "It's going to be a long morning for you, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even like we were the first wave at 8 a.m. where it's kind of like, oh, a lot of people don't really want to eat that early. And if we were like on at 11:30, and I was like,
oh God.
Yeah,
that's like my worst nightmare.
You've got that, and he didn't have any like gels or anything. And I don't know who he is. Like, I'll probably never know who it was. But
I wonder if he finished or whether he just. Oh,
Yeah.
I bet he just had a brutal time. I mean, like you don't always feel like eating, and I struggle to eat before like any kind of race or training, but like I've slowly trained myself to do it over the years, whether I enjoy it or not. It's just like it's an essential thing to
I
for
know
your
that
body,
Paul,
isn't it?
I know that Paul Gillingham was like the kind of first guy that ever did it, but I always have Pop Tarts now.
I don't
Like,
know.
Pop
I
Tarts
think
my
that's
last pre-race thing.
we
Yeah,
did that in the marathons quite a bit.
When we were doing a lot of running, we would eat a lot of Pop Tarts. They're just easy to eat and such like
They've got like 80 grams of carbs in them.
high
Sugary shit.
basically like
It's all right if you eat them and then go do a Hyrox. It's like they're only bad when people have them and then go and sit on the sofa and don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, like it's all relative, isn't it? Or Jaffa cakes.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's often Jaffa cakes, but Pop Tarts, another good one. Like
yeah,
it.
definitely.
Okay, next up is what's your favorite type of training session for Hyrox? Like genre, like doesn't have to be specific.
I always love, I know earlier in the podcast I said don't just do it, but the sim sessions, like since I moved to Birmingham, I've gone to Forders quite a lot. And Monday night Hyrox is always like my favorite session of the week, just because the guy who programs it, Ash, like he programs it like pretty much perfectly every time, and it's always something really different.
Oh,
But
that's
every
cool.
single time, like you're always just on the rivet the whole time, but everything lines up perfectly. So I think that's probably my favorite. Like yesterday, we had 4 10.5 minute blocks with 1 minute recovery between each, but it was about a 500-meter run, 400-meter ski, 500-meter run, and then into like this like last station where you might just finish it, and then if so, you go back to the run, but you might just fall short, and it's like, and because there's a camaraderie there, like yesterday we had like 40 50 people in our session, and everyone is just like giving 100% effort. So it's probably the sim sessions, if not probably like the hard long runs.
Yeah.
I did a really hard run session last weekend, like 10 days ago now when we're recording. And I finished that and I was like, wow, that was like real fun. Because it was like it was a marathon session, but it obviously correlates over to Hyrox. So that's probably either the sim sessions or the really hard runs.
The ones you get that sense of achievement at the end, don't you? I think that
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I made it, I did it, like, and you know it's good for you. It's like,
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
I've heard a lot about the Forders stuff, haven't we? We need to go and train down there. My mum lives like North Birmingham, so I was like, oh, we need to go and do a session. We tried to hook up with Jade, didn't we, to go down that one time when we were there, but we just couldn't make it. But it does sound like you've got such a good like vibe going on at that gym. And did you move to Birmingham for the training or?
Yeah, so I'm moving home in like the end of November, but I'm
And where's
still
home for you?
Oxford. So
Oxford,
my
okay.
mum lives, well, my dad lives in London, mum lives in Oxford, but I've
Yeah.
lived with my mum pretty much my whole life. But I'll still come up and train in Forders even when I move home.
Cool.
So like the training is just brilliant there.
Oh, that's awesome. It's nice when you get a good like it's that whole thing. I was saying to Em this morning on the run, like I was listening to a chat with Kipchoge and he was like, if you want to get better at running, run with a group. It's like if you want to get better at training, if you have a really supportive group that pushes each other on, like you've just said, and it's like 40, 50 of you and everyone's like pushing. Even if you're not in the mood for it that night, you're gonna find something and you're gonna push probably harder than if you did it on your own at a gym.
And it's like in every aspect of like life, it's like you should always try and be with people faster than you. But then like if you are the fastest, you should always try and make those around you faster.
Yeah.
It's the same with like anything. Like if you should try and surround yourself with people smarter than you. But then if you're the smartest, you should always help people get smarter. So I think
I'll never be the one trying to help people get smarter, but that someone will be.
That's the best. That's probably the best thing about it, just the community aspect. Because 90% of the training, 95% of the training I do is just on my own.
Yeah. And do you have a coach now?
I coach myself.
Do you own? Yeah. Fair.
I've always coached myself in sort of every aspect, just because not that I don't think I'd work well with a coach, but I just know my body
Mm.
a lot better, and I've got enough knowledge to understand what works and what doesn't work.
Mm.
And I think for almost everyone, it's probably worthwhile having a coach because you don't know everything, but then just I still bounce my ideas off of people.
Yeah.
Ask people, oh, do you think this should go here, or what do you think of that session? Do you think like going into this race, what should be better? But I think, yeah, just always coach myself.
No,
No.
that's cool. I just
Yeah.
was intrigued whether you did.
Okay, next went off on a slight tangent there, but that's okay.
Sorry.
I blame Faye. The next one is, in a nutshell, why should someone sign up for their first Hyrox?
Why not?
Very good answer.
I think it's just like you should always try something new, and like it is the new thing, and it's at that point now where it's kind of everyone's kind of hearing the word. Like not everyone knows what it was, but like you'll ask a random person, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that." Like, what actually is it? But I think just try it. Like you'll never you never regret not trying something for the most part, especially if it's like in a sporting remit. Like why not give it a go? And then if you like it, you can do it. If you don't like it, find something else. So I think probably just why not is probably the main thing, but like just everything about it, from being in it quite early on, just seeing it grow, and the community aspect has stayed the same since I first did it, what, 3 years ago now? Like even
Yeah.
now, it's just like the community just makes it completely worthwhile. So 100% I'd recommend that anyone give it a go.
Yeah, definitely. Love that. And last question is there anyone that you would love for us to talk to see on our podcast? It can be anyone really, like someone we might know of, someone we might not know of, or a type of person in the industry, or
Just because it's very, well, not just because, but it's very topical at the moment. Have you ever heard of Ollie Russell?
no.
So in 3 days now. So in 3 days' time, it was meant to be a burpee broad jump marathon, but we've
seen something about this.
We've had to shorten it a little bit because he's got to do it in 48 hours now. So he's essentially how far he can burpee broad jump in 48 hours.
Oh my god.
And he's probably the most like mentally just like strong person I know at a personal level. Like he can just like you can tell him to do something and he'll just do it. But then I think especially after his like this whatever we can call it, burpee broad jump world record is probably the best way.
Yeah, because probably nobody else is gonna do burpee broad jumps.
Like he'd be the best person to ask. Like I'm doing the like graveyard shift with him on the Saturday night, so I'll be with him from about 3 p.m. on Saturday to midday on Sunday.
When's he doing this?
God.
This weekend.
This weekend. And what's his Instagram?
Russell Performance Training, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
I think it's literally just it's literally just Russell Performance Training.
Okay, yeah. I just
is it at Forders Gym? Is that where he's doing it?
No, so we're doing it at Solihull Rugby Club. So he's doing it around the rugby pitch.
Oh my god.
So we worked out like a lap of it's about 300 meters. So we were there for his last training one, which was just 8 hours of that pitch. So yeah.
How did he find it? How did he find the training? Was he like, okay, or was he?
It's just one of those, like, it's just burpees. That's what I said to him. It's just a burpee, but you've just got to do it like 30,000 times.
We will definitely have to try and speak to him after he's done that.
And it's all for like a good cause. It's for the Matt Gallagher Foundation, which is for motor neurons disease.
Oh, amazing.
So like it's all for a good cause, and like he's a nice bloke, down to earth, and just does crazy things like that. So I think probably just for that thing alone is probably worth having one.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
bloody hell.
We'll
Can't
try
complain
and-
about doing burpees again when you've only got like 80 meters and it's
Yeah.
just
I
been
know.
like 48 hours.
We'll try and get if there's a link for donating, or
Yeah, we
Oh,
can
yeah,
add it to the,
like try and put it in the show notes if
Oh yeah,
yeah, we'll do that.
it'll be like I'll do updates on my Instagram overnight probably, which will be quite funny when I'm
Perfect.
complaining about lack of sleep when I'm
Yeah.
I've been burping for 40 hours straight.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm surprised you've agreed to help out with this, considering how much you hate burpees, but it's
Well,
one
I
way
mean-
to get better, isn't it?
When you can see somebody else suffering more next to you though, it's usually
Yeah, and I know that if I did something similar, he'd come and help out with for me. So it's kind of probably best if I go and help him out.
yeah, definitely. Oh no, fair play to you getting involved. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, that is the roundup of our cheeky insight questions. I wasn't expecting it to end like that, talking about 48-hour burpee broad jumps. Love it. Where can people find you, Charlie, if they want to follow you? Is Instagram the best?
Yeah, Instagram's my go-to thing. Like I don't really use TikTok or anything like that. I've not succumbed to the TikTok yet. But yeah, just Charlie_EFMB. It's a bit of a weird one, but that's my handle.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add, Faye, or
No, I just think like thanks for your time. That's been like awesome to find out a bit more and yeah, just to see how your season's going to go. All the best with it because it sounds exciting and
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
we'll definitely
thanks
be
for having me.
following
What race have you guys got lined up?
we're like at the moment we did have Madrid planned, but we're working some contract work and I think this contract's going to run over. So we stopped and didn't want to book anything else until we definitely know this contract's finished. And then
same weekend as Birmingham, isn't it?
yeah, it's in end of October, isn't it?
yeah, it was announced before Birmingham. Yeah.
So we'll probably do something towards the back end of this year and next year. So we thought we'll finish this work contract and then we'll book a load
I
of
was
stuff.
looking at Poznan though, because is that the very start of November?
Yeah, it's the weekend after Birmingham.
Yeah, I think it's like the second, and I was looking at that the other day because there's still some slots of it's where you can get a race ticket now, isn't it?
There's still slots available, but it's so cheap to get out. Like
yeah, it's good for flights, isn't it?
I'm out there for 3 nights, and then I've got the 3 races, and like all in it's cost me I think 320 quid.
That is good.
Yeah, like so I was looking at
2
that.
flights, 3 races. It's like
yeah, decent, isn't it? It's probably more expensive to stay in London for a weekend and race at Olympia. But yeah, I mean maybe we could get out there, but we'll definitely be doing one in November, December, if not a couple, and then we'll hit the new year. But yeah, we'll hopefully see that. If we're at Poznan, we'll cheer you on in all of your races.
oh yeah, we've got there's a good like a really strong British contingent going out to Poznan. So
okay, cool.
Love it.
Happy days. Well, thank you very much. For everyone listening, thank you for listening. We hope you found this useful, inspiring, and hopefully, yeah, taking some of Charlie's tips and tricks into your next Hyrox race. And we will see you on the next episode.